Boeing reported a horrendous set of numbers today. It's been estimated they're losing roughly $1 billion a month from this machinist strike, and that's on top of the fact they've gotten seemingly forgotten how to make planes. It's a nightmare!
Down 67% from the peak, 4 years without a dividend payment, the decline of aviation in unprecedented style. The company is bleeding. Boeing, as king of the skies, now identifies with Volkswagen on the financial markets. The results are bad. The outlook is not good. A turnaround is not in sight. All this and more about Boeing and the airline industry. Fasten your seatbelts and let's head down the falling chart of one of the most famous airlines. Hi investors, this is Milan from 𝗕𝗂𝗋. None of the information in this video is investment recommendation. Always do your own detailed analysis. Boeing has been losing money for more than 5 years now, and it started with more than just the 2 fatal 737 MAX accidents in late 2018 and early 2019 that killed 346 people and grounded the company's best-selling plane in terms of boarding passes for 20 months. Since then, Boeing has posted operating losses of more than $33 billion. Green, or at least black, on the income statement is still in sight. According to ratings agency Standard & Poor's, the strike, which began September 13, is adding $1 billion to the company's losses each month. The problem is that stopping production of the 737 MAX has cut off the company's most important source of funds, which gets most of its cash from selling the planes when they are delivered. Boeing wants to raise as much as $25 billion to help it weather the current adverse environment through additional borrowing along with stock and debt sales. It also plans to lay off 10% of its workforce globally, about 17,000 of its 171,000 employees, as part of cost-cutting measures. Boeing's financial problems are bad news for the US economy as well. It is the country's biggest exporter from the industry. And more immediately, the problems could affect business in the communities where the sacked Boeing employees and strikers live, mostly in Washington state, as they cut back on spending. Another way the financial problems will spread beyond Boeing itself will be the impact of the strike on suppliers. Boeing has 10,000 suppliers located in all 50 US states. After 33,000 members of the International Association of Machinists went on strike against the company a month ago, Boeing will not be able to deliver its new planes as promised. This will hurt the airline and could impact the number of seats available, especially on domestic flights across the United States. Last week, after 7 long weeks of strikes by employees, the strikes were ended, thanks to the company approving a 38% wage increase over 4 years, but it will take many weeks to resume production. According to an analysis by the Anderson Economic Group, losses to Boeing employees, strikers, suppliers, and the company itself, along with local governments, reached $5 billion in the first month of the strike. Boeing's credit rating is at risk of being downgraded to junk bond status, which would cause further financial problems as borrowing costs rise. Junk bond status means an increased risk of default and possibly bankruptcy. But even if the company is forced to declare bankruptcy, it does not mean it will go out of business. It only means that Boeing would use the bankruptcy process to shed some of its unsustainable debt and other liabilities. A number of successful companies, including General Motors and most of the nation's airlines, have gone through bankruptcy and then posted record profits. And it is unlikely that Boeing will be forced out of business as a result of the current financial crisis. Boeing and its European competitor Airbus are essentially the only companies that produce aircraft of the size that are flown today. Their position within the duopoly essentially ensures its survival, at least for now. For both companies, it's a battle for places in investors' portfolios. Because both companies still have something to offer, the decision may not be easy. For 𝗕𝗂𝗋 Black members, their detailed comparison, which becomes a distinct help in such cases, is available within Octagon on 𝗕𝗂𝗋. The company's shares are down 41% year to date and are down 53.8% since the start of the COVID crisis. The price is now trading at 2015 levels. Boeing's financial situation represents a significant multi-billion-dollar problem for the company, its employees, suppliers, and airline customers. The good news is that the average person in Europe is unlikely to be affected by these problems. Well, not too much. Fewer seats could mean that airlines will be forced to raise ticket prices. However, ticket prices are currently falling because there is more capacity in the industry than there is demand for flights. Many of the aircraft that have been delivered are likely to have replaced older, less efficient aircraft, not because they are carrying more customers. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is meant to represent 30 companies that are cornerstones of the US economy and whose success sets them apart from other companies on the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. For most of the past 5 years, that hasn't been true for Boeing, and so a legitimate question is whether the aircraft maker still belongs in a blue chip index. For the moment, there is only one right answer to that question: no. But is it something that every investor should immediately follow? If you're still on the fence about whether Boeing is an interesting stock, you can check out its fair price in the Fair Price Index at _. The company hasn't posted a profit since 2018 and has had only a handful of profitable quarters since then, with $33.3 billion in core operating losses and more losses likely to come in the quarters ahead. Since a doorstopper on an Alaska Airlines plane broke off in January, the company has been the subject of multiple federal investigations, as more than a dozen whistleblowers have warned of a corporate culture that prioritized the failed pursuit of profitability over the quality and safety of its planes. As a result, production of the best-selling 737 MAX has stalled at just 32 deliveries per month. That's not enough to return to profitability. In addition, there are two other serious problems that suggest Boeing no longer belongs in the Dow. No other Dow component has such a poor credit outlook. In July, Boeing agreed to plead guilty to charges that it deceived the Federal Aviation Administration when it sought initial approval of the 737 MAX passenger jet, leading to a design flaw linked to 2 fatal crashes. So it doesn't look like a spectacular turnaround anytime soon. Do you believe in this sector and have airline stocks in your portfolio? Share it in the comments. Good luck with your investments.